August 9th, 2014. Now, for many people, this day was just a normal Saturday. You were at the park, you were maybe sleeping in, you maybe watched a few too many Netflix binges, just saying. Or if you're a workaholic like me, you were working. But August 9th also signifies something else. August 9th was the date that Michael Brown Jr. was shot and killed, and he laid out in the middle of a street, middle of a community for hours without any governmental help. August 9th also was more than that. This was the day that people in our community remembered the inequities and the inequality between certain residents. Now, what's so interesting about 2014 is that this year was the year that St. Louis was in the middle of a huge celebration. We were celebrating our 250th birthday. There were galas. There were literally birthday cakes throughout the city. It was really annoying. But then August 9th came, and we were reminded that while half of the city were celebrating 250 fantastic years, the other half continued to live in environments that were not allowing them to be their best selves. So at this time, a lot of people in my community were asking the question, what should we do? How do we step up to address the unrest and the inequalities in our community? So I was asking that question, but I also was asking the question of, what should designers do? Now, see, many people, when I say designers, they're like, why do we need to call designers to the party? You know, when I sketch something on a napkin and slide it to you, that's when you show up, okay? But the thing about design is that design is the invisible innovation. It was the invisible innovation before innovation was even a word. You know design is effective when you don't know that it's there. But when you're walking down the street, or you're within a building, or the clothes that you're wearing, those were all design decisions. And so I saw that as powerful. If design is shaping our culture and our world and has been doing it for centuries, then why are we not inviting designers to the table to address these social justice issues that are embedded within our culture? But then design is also important for another reason. And that's because systems of oppression, injustice, and inequities are designed. Now, many people may not use that term to define it, but it's a design decision. Let me give you some stats. Blacks are incarcerated 5 times the rate of whites. Latinx population almost 2 times. It will take Black communities 228 years to obtain the same amount of wealth as whites. That is 17 years shy of slavery. It would take the Latinx population to the year 2097. And then in my hometown, St. Louis, in my community, there is an 18-year life expectancy gap between Black residents and white residents. These are not individual decisions. These are systemic designs. So how do we bring design to the table to address this, and why? What does it look like when design is brought to the table to address media narration and media framing? Because the reality is that we are a country, a society of victim blaming, and we like to put labels on people. Whether you recognize it or not, thug is the new way to say the N-word. And so when we recognize that people are being removed from the fact that they are human beings and depicted another way, you recognize that it's a design problem. Opposed to looking at these individuals as a thug or a hoodlum or a gangster, recognizing that this was someone's son, daughter, mother, student, and saying, how do we challenge that? Or when we look at the idea of the culture of fear in our society. Now, many people don't even recognize that there is a culture of fear. But statistics actually show that there's a culture of fear of Black males. You're more than likely to cross the street. You're gonna clutch your purse. Or you're gonna move closer to the wall in the elevator. So when we have this culture of fear, that in turn dictates our actions and our decisions and our biases. Sometimes we like to hide it underneath the word of safety. Or let's use design to challenge this issue of stereotyping and assumptions. Stereotyping is literally the opposite of individuality. We are defining you based on what I assume you are. So opposed to looking at it that way, why don't we recognize you for the individual that you have grown to be? Myself personally, I'm a huge fan of techno. If techno's not on in the morning, I ain't getting up. Or how do we design spaces and communities where individuals are able to come together and help each other actually problem solve around this issue? This project here is an example of what they like to call, the designer calls it civic match. It takes the idea of what we have already in our society, which is matchmaking. You know, we see it on Match.com or Tinder if you're trying to find the love of your life or maybe a boo. And they're saying, well, why don't we have a place where people can come and say, I have this idea. And then other people come and say, well, I'll help you make it happen. When this project closed in November 2014, because it was only intended for the protests, there were over 768 actions that had occurred because of this. So what we need to do is redefine the term design. And we need to redefine the term designers. Because I believe that everyone has the capability to be a designer. When you make a decision, you're designing something. The question you need to ask yourself is, am I designing a better world? Am I designing a better outcome? And another way to look at it is to recognize that we all have values and expertise. Now, we don't sometimes know that we have power. The majority of us do, not all. We have power in our knowledge. We have power in our skills. We have power in our talent. And so we need to bring that to the table to collaborate and work together. If you're from the creative sector, my musicians, my artists, my traditional designers, my spoken word poets, you are experts on creative problem solving, on human connection, on connecting us with our souls. See, the thing about art is that many people don't put value on it because it's hard to define. We like to consume it, but we don't necessarily give the value when we think about the people that produces it. But think about the fact that they are the recorders and the narrators of our culture and our history and what they can do when challenging social issues. Or if you're from the social and civic sector, our nonprofit execs, our frontline responders, you know the theory, history, and the policy of an issue. You're able to holistically think about how are we going to challenge this problem. Or the business sector. Now, yes, we like to call them because they have money, and we like their money. But they are more than that. They know how to think about the feasibility and the scalability and the sustainability of a solution. And when you are challenging systemic issues that are so embedded in our being, we need sustainable approaches, not just one-offs. And then lastly, but definitely not least, our community members, or what I like to call the living experts. They know the day-to-day impact of whatever issue you're trying to address. But sometimes we're so focused on putting up our power and putting up these walls that we don't try to collaborate with each other. Here's an example of a community designer. That's what I like to call people, community designers. Her name is Nicole Hudson. Her background is marketing and communications. And she believes that racial inequality is partially a communication issue. So after doing work in advertising and marketing and publishing for so long, she was picked by the Ferguson Commission that was created after Ferguson occurred to be the communications director. She made such an impact that they asked her to be the leader of the nonprofit that came out of this, Forward Through Ferguson. But she told them, I don't want to be the CEO. I don't like that title. So she asked if her title could be the lead catalyst. And she was thinking about, how do I catalyze and amplify collective impact in the work that we're doing? She did such a phenomenal job with this that she was just selected to be the senior policy advisor for racial equity and strategic initiatives in the new mayoral cabinet. That's the first time they ever had a role such as this in my city. Or individuals like Travis Sheridan. Now Travis, he's in St. Louis, but he's from California. Apparently we couldn't kick him out. He came, he fell in love, you know. And Travis, he believes in what he likes to call serendipitous collisions. He likes for people to connect and engage with each other. He believes human connection is the solution and not another app, which is funny since he's based in a technology center. So he does this in many ways. He does this through arts. He also likes to do it with beer through his program, Booze Storming. But what's so phenomenal about Travis is that when this happened, when Ferguson happened, he was the first one to tell you, I have no idea what to do. And this was hard for him because he's a solution developer. But then he just realized that opposed to trying to develop a solution, I need to learn to radically listen. And that's what he did. So when you take individuals like Travis and Nicole and the thousands and millions of people, and put it into the equation, we start to recognize that as designers, we can be the researchers, the strategists, the teachers, the doers that we need to change our world. But what we need to define is our mission. My mission is racial equity. I am particularly looking at how do we build a better world for Black and Latinx populations. You have to define your mission. And when you define your mission and look at it through the lens of creative problem solving for civic engagement, you ultimately lead to transformation. Not change, but transformation. So what I want you to do, if nothing else, when you leave today, is you step up and you say, what's that mission that's so important for me? What should I design? And when you do that, I guarantee you, we're gonna continue to build a better world for all of us. Thank you.